Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you who have joined us from different corners of the world. So, we also hope that you're all doing good. And thank you so much once again for investing your time with us. So, on behalf of CISA, we are welcoming you all to the on demand webinar for Apache Log4j vulnerability and how can it impact you, which is, of course, indeed a burning topic around the infosec space these days. And before we get started, uh, uh, if we can move to the next slide, please. Moving on. Harshal. Yeah, so before we get started, so I'd like to cover some of the housekeeping items for today's webinar. So this session is going for of a total of 55 minutes, which includes 15 minutes for the Q&A. All the attendees will be muted automatically for the smooth flow of the webinar. And you can also feel free to share your questions that arise during the webinar through the Q&A section. Moving on to the next slide. So some quick facts about CISA. We are a forensic-driven global cybersecurity company. We are having 1,000 plus active engagements every year. And also we have served 2,000 plus global customers till date from 40 plus countries. CISA is also one of the top 4 global payment forensic investigator approved by the PCI Council. Not only this, we are also a renowned brand recognized by the payment schemes such as Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. We are also accredited by CREST and a trusted provider for the vulnerability assessment and the penetration testing services. Next is that how we are, introducing myself again. So I am Bharat Malik and your host for the webinar today. I lead the new customer success team at CISA. Next is we have got some quick facts about CISA. Harshal. Okay, introducing our speakers. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers, which are Kaushik, whom I believe most of the people would know about him. And next we have got Mr. Harshal Deshmukh for today's webinar. Kaushik is a global head of compliance and testing services. He's a public speaker and leads the payment security trainings at CISA as an authorized trainer. Mr. Harshal is senior project leader for War Labs at CISA. He's highly experienced in cybersecurity professional for having a more than 21 years of experience overall in information security, governance, risk and control, vulnerability assessment. And also he has got extensive experience in working with for PCI DSS, NCA, SAMA, which is a regulatory requirement from Middle East. And then we have got ISO 27001. Harshal, next, please. Okay, so this is about the agenda. So I think without any further delay, I would like to welcome Kaushik and Harshal to take over the platform. Harshal, Kaushik.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Bharat. I hope I'm audible, loud and clear.
Yeah, loud and clear, Kaushik.
All right, fantastic. Sure. So thanks a lot, Bharat, for the nice introduction over there. And again, good afternoon and good evening to all of you from whichever part of the world we have joined. And without further delay, we'll directly go to the topic, because right now, this particular topic is the need of the hour, is the burning topic. And accordingly, we have to make sure that our organizations are secured from this Log4j vulnerability, what exactly is going on across the world right now. Just taking some facts, just taking some quotes from a few of, let's say, some great researchers, is that whenever we are trying to secure the organizations, we always focus on the average. But actually, the outliers are really the ones which we should always be worried about. Because even the attackers are actually looking for those outliers. And when they get hold of those outliers, they accordingly impact it, exploit it, and then accordingly go inside the organization. Now let's talk about Log4j right now. Now Log4j vulnerability, or let's say the Log4j itself, let's for some minutes, or let's say for a few seconds, for a few minutes, let's forget about that, okay, it's a vulnerability. Let's talk about Log4j first. That what exactly is this Log4j? Let's try to understand its prevalence, in majority of the Java projects, in majority of the Java applications. If you'll see the stats, the figures, 60.8% of the Java projects have Log4j in some of an indirect fashion, or some of an indirect prevalence inside the application, inside the Java applications. Whereas 39.2% of the applications have Java 4j embedded inside. Or let's say they use Java 4j as a utility for logging purposes, absolutely. Why exactly am I talking so much about this Log4j? Because that's how you and me both will be able to understand the impact of this vulnerability on our critical infrastructure. So what exactly is this Log4j? This Log4j is primarily an open source Java-based logging framework, using which applications, organizations can go ahead and accordingly, let's say, log many of the, let's say, the logging capabilities of a particular Java application. Why exactly am I talking about Log4j? Or let's say, why exactly am I talking about the definition of the same, even though we haven't started even the, let's say, the agenda, the topics? Because right now, if you guys are burning the midnight oil and working continuously so as to protect your organization, so as to protect the critical, let's say, infrastructure, please try to understand that if any of the things, whatever I just discussed, resonate your application, your infrastructure, then please go ahead and make sure that the Log4j2 has been patched inside your organization. And you are at least on a version of, let's say, 2.15.0, which is basically a stable version of the same, or the latest version is 2.16.0, which is the latest version. So any of these two versions are good enough, and accordingly will be able to protect your organization. Now let's talk about today's discussion. Let's talk about today's webinar. So today, what exactly we'll be doing is that we'll be talking about, first of all, what exactly this Log4j, something which I've already talked about, something which I'll emphasize later. We'll be talking about the CVEIDs. Why CVEIDs? Because the vulnerabilities along Log4j, or say the vulnerabilities along the deserialization challenges in the Log4j is not something which is new. 2 times before as well, that's something which, let's say, has been identified as well in the past. We'll talk about the system components, the services, the frameworks, that accordingly you can understand that how much of your scope might have been impacted due to this particular vulnerabilities or this particular, let's say, Log4j attack pattern, what we are seeing right now in the market. Then we'll be able to understand that, okay, what exactly we should look out for, so that accordingly we are prepared from any of the exploits which, let's say, are readily available right now in the market. Then steps to mitigate the same, and then from a vendor protection program, how exactly, let's say, all of us can protect ourselves. And at the end of the day, how exactly CISA would be able to protect as well. Now, one particular thing which we haven't mentioned, and that is the key of the hour, is that during the entire session, or say in this entire session, we'll also be doing a live POC, a live proof of concept, to show you guys how exactly, let's say, we'll be able to identify if a particular server or if a particular application is vulnerable to this Log4j vulnerability or not. Thanks to our War Labs R&D. They have worked really, really hard so as to, let's say, come out with, let's say, the entire session, the entire presentation. And one particular request which will be there from my end is that this particular webinar might be a bit, let's say, here and there, because we are doing it at, let's say, at the brink of the hour, because that was the, let's say, the hot, let's say, the area over here. So just manage with us, guys, for that. All right. Can we go to the next one, Harshal? Sure. So Log4j vulnerability, as I, let's say, already told you, it's basically a remote code execution vulnerability. So what do we mean by remote code execution vulnerability? It means that in a very, very simple terms, that inside the application, inside the logging capabilities of the application, if we supply a few commands in some of the other patterns, in the pattern in which the application, the Log4j or the utility understands it, we might be able to execute some arbitrary codes, some arbitrary scripts on top of that. And then accordingly, that particular script or that particular code might result in a remote code execution attack. And for those of you who are quite, let's say, privileged with this particular topic of remote code execution, you already know that if I'm able to exploit the remote code execution, then actually I've got access to the server. Or let's say got a direct access to the server, and after that I can do anything or everything, whatever, let's say, can be there. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. And this particular vulnerability of remote code execution is not something which is new, as I told you in the past, as well as I told you in the starting as well. So if you'll see, 2017 was the basically the first time where let's say this log4j2.x, basically this particular vulnerability came in. So primarily before August 2015, we were at log4j1, means let's say 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and hence so forth. Okay. From August 2015, log4j2.x was launched, of course, for the logging and let's say as an open source Java-based logging framework, so that we can have let's say a plugin kind of an architecture in these logging capabilities. And from there onwards, the people who are quite familiar with this is log4j already know that the process and deserialization user input challenges have been mainstream altogether from the time it has been introduced. Whether we take the case of, let's say 2017, where the CVID was, let's say 5645, or 2019, where it was 17571, all of these vulnerabilities led to remote code execution attack. All of these vulnerabilities, and all of them were actually talking about the deserialization of untrusted data. That's how it was at that time. And even today as well, when we're talking about the latest one, the 2021 one, and basically which got unearthed on December 9, 2021, which it was actually identified and exploited. Even in this one as well, it carries a CVS score of around 10, because again, a remote code execution is something which is quite easy over here. And if you just put enough, let's say, I just don't want to steal the, let's say, the POC thing over here, which will be happening in some time and you guys will get to know. But if you actually put inside the payload of, let's say, the dollar parenthesis and the script, or let's say, and the command which you want to, let's say, insert over there, then the lookup over there will be able to, let's say, execute configuration, or let's say, execute many of the things inside the application, and then accordingly, the vulnerability can be exploited as well. Harshal, can we go to the next one? So what exactly should be the next question is that, okay, we understood about the log4j. Okay, I have a Java-based application, I have a Java-based framework. It might be there, but how will I get to know that, let's say, actually this vulnerability might be impacting my systems? So based upon the research, which let's say many of the global organizations and even CISA has done in the past as well, we have identified that these applications, these framework applications, are actually prone to, let's say, the log4j to attack whatever is happening as of now, starting from Struts to Solar to Druid to Flink, Elasticsearch, Flume, Logstash, Kafka, and even the Spring Boot as well. So if any of these are currently running, which actually majority of our organizations actually right, Shaila, you are absolutely right over there. So majority of, let's say, the organizations will be running somewhere or the other these things, then actually we have got impacted, and accordingly we have to make sure that how to secure our organization over here. We'll have the Q&A at the last, guys, so need not, let's say, worry about it, and we'll answer all the questions, whatever we have. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. So as I told you in the very starting, that 2.15.0 is the stable version which is available right now in the, let's say, the market, and accordingly we'll be able to help you secure as well. 2.16 is the latest version, which hasn't been categorized as a stable one. So it's better that, let's say, we go ahead and do it. And later in the, let's say, presentation, you will also have steps to mitigate as well, and steps to identify, and then accordingly help for the closures. So on that particular note, I'll just forward this request to Harshal to take it from here. Harshal, you there?
Yes, thank you very much, Kaushik. Exactly what we gonna look out for the Log4j version and the vulnerabilities if they are present in the system or the network or the infrastructure that we have right now. So regarding that, we need to go like this, that the server that is being used for the framework or the applications for as a backup, or the things to put out the data and the running the all the applications, that needs to be verified for the Log4j version which is being used. The endpoints with any of the protocols, that is the HTTP or TCP, which may allow the attacker to send the exploits through one of the string that just Kaushik told us, and also the logs being kept at the server or the databases logs should be monitored for these purposes. And even further, that exactly how what exact in detail what we need to monitor over here, that the data from the user which is being sent to the server also through any of the protocols needs to be monitored. Secondly, the server logs, the data in the request should also be monitored with the, which should not be containing the malicious payloads actually. So that the logs should be taken care of it. Secondly, for the Java network directory interface that is being used for that, for integration purposes and all, so that also needs to be monitored. Secondly, the payloads which are getting triggered in the path, so that we need also to be taken care for. So I'll ask Siddharth to take it over for the actual exploitation, what can be done, what could happen in that part. Kaushik?
Yeah, so basically you would have to make him the host right now. Harshal?
Yeah, I'm
sure
doing it.
And in the meantime, so basically, team, what exactly we are trying to, let's say, give you a dump of over here is that we have explained to you what exactly Log4j is. We have explained to you what exactly you should look out for inside your organization to identify that are you being impacted because of, let's say, this particular, let's say, the vulnerability or not. And we just told you some step-by-step approach as well, so that accordingly we can understand the scope of, let's say, this particular vulnerability. Now what we are trying to do is that now we'll just go ahead and show you that how exactly this vulnerability can be exploited by the intruders, by the attackers, or even, let's say, you, if you want to, let's say, understand that is your application or, let's say, is your server vulnerable to this or not, then accordingly you can do it. So Siddharth is primarily our, let's say, the War Labs researcher. He has been playing a very, very active part in the identification, in the proof of concept. And also, once we came out with the, let's say, the methodology, that how exactly organizations can make sure that this vulnerability is not even present in the slightest form inside the, let's say, the application, let's say inside their Apache application or whatever they might be using at the end of the day, or let's say Java libraries. Then he was the one who came in, let's say, with the detailed methodology around the same, and then accordingly we were able to implement. So Siddharth is the top guy, and Siddharth, over to you.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Kaushik. Hope everyone is doing great. So here in this session, what I'll be able to do is, like, I'm running a vulnerable application which is vulnerable to Log4j service, and how we can identify this Log4j service using the normal method, like there are many methods where we can identify. This is one of the methods which just want to showcase here, so that you can also go back and try seeing if you are vulnerable to Log4j or not. So in this terminal, I've hosted one application. I'm going to host it right now. I'll be running the service. So the Springboard vulnerable service is online right now. And what we'll see is that as we'll be sending a curl request to the local host with the header XAPI version and the payload. So if there are people here who know what is JNTI and what exactly does this payload does, let me explain it to you. So JNTI is a Java network and directory interface where this plugin is used to pull out the data from anywhere, from that, like wherever the JNTI plugin is used, that specific log or data is being pulled out from that application or from that server. So what it does is that it is directing to a particular LDAP where the attacker will specify their private domain or host, where the attacker will be able to fetch the data, and using that data, attacker will be able to identify what he can do, how he can exploit this particular vulnerability. So once I hit enter, I'll get a response, hello world. So this says that this application is vulnerable to Log4j vulnerability. Now, for you, in order to check if their application is vulnerable to Log4j or not, one way we can actually do it is using canary tokens. So let me just open it and share my screen for you.
Siddharth, have you stopped sharing the screen? Is it?
Yeah, I'm sharing a new screen where I can show the.
Okay. And also one request came from the attendees is that once we are talking about the payloads, if we can zoom in over there so that they can see. That was one request which came from people.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Siddharth comes out with, let's say, his screen. So what exactly? Because if you guys remember how we started, and I told you that okay, with dollar, with parenthesis and all, whatever things are going inside that as a payload, the Java's lookup will actually go ahead and look for those particular arbitrary commands inside the application, and then accordingly it will be able to fetch out data for you. And that is the same thing what we are trying to do over here. Siddharth, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kaushik. So here using canary tokens will actually select the service which we want to use here to alert. So it's like canary tokens is a monitoring and alerting service which will allow us security researchers to monitor and see if the application or the server is compromised or not. So we will generate a payload from here. So I'll select log4 shell so that we can generate a payload using that. So here is the payload. So here is the payload. Like if you can see the payload, please look into it. So this is how exactly the JNDI works. So it's like the JNDI plugin will capture every string. So in C programming, if you see that if we search for a string, in order to search for a string, the str, how the str works, the same the JNDI plugin works here. So this is the main part, JNDI to the particular LDAP server, which we need to attack or see if the server is vulnerable to a log4j or not. So we'll just copy this payload. We'll go back to our machine. We'll replace the old payload with this payload. So what exactly happens here is that the curl request will make a request using an XAPI version header and send the payload. When the payload is sent, we will receive an email trigger within the email which we have actually set with the.
Siddharth, I'm sorry to interrupt, but people cannot see the terminal. If you can switch the screen, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Siddharth, basically, you showed us the payload over here, was in the token, right? But then
Yeah.
you would have used it in the terminal, correct?
Yes, yes.
But that is something which was not visible to all of us
Okay.
because you have shown only, I think, this window, what you have right now. Yeah.
Let me reshare the screen again.
Sure. And the people, I'm sorry for this, Siddharth, again, but the people's request is that if we can walk through the complete flow again from the generation of the token. Okay, means the token is generated and where exactly we'll use it in the, let's say in your Kali or let's say in your console, and then how exactly we'll go ahead from there.
So I'll just show you the token generation part.
Sure.
So here you will select the log4j log line, and then you will input an email ID. I'll input my email ID here. The screen is visible, right?
Yes. So right now we had Canary tokens, and
Yes.
you have entered this.
So here we will be creating our token. Okay. This will be a specific format. So this is a specific format for the payload. The token which we are generating will be from here. Okay. So this is the particular string which actually calls the JNTI plugin to fetch the data from an application log or application server log. And this is the, for example, LDAP, it can be also RMI. And from LDAP, we mention the host name here. It will fetch the host. From that particular host detail, it will fetch it, the data. So we'll just copy this and we'll just paste it to the terminal. Let me reshare the terminal again. Is the terminal visible now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So after inputting this particular payload, we'll press enter. So after pressing enter, this will execute. We can see the communication here also, which is happening. Now we'll go back to our email ID and see whether if we got a trigger stating that if this particular service is vulnerable to, or application is vulnerable to log4j or not. So let me reshare it again. So if you see the payload which we gave, it has triggered, the DNS has triggered here in our mail ID. This says that application server is vulnerable to log4j vulnerability. And there are another method instead of if we send this XAPI version header with the payload within our burp request, any request within the burp suite to check if the application is vulnerable to log4j or not. There also will be able to identify it. So I hope this was clear for everyone. Over to you, Harshad.
Yes, that was really, really good. Thanks a lot, let's say, for explaining step by step. And for the team members who have, let's say, joined in, we'll be sharing the, let's say, the approach as well, that, okay, how exactly you can, let's say, do the entire activity. We'll also share that, okay, where all these vulnerable servers are present, or let's say where all you can download and things like that. Okay, so need not worry. And many of these things, yeah, Canary and all are open source. So we'll be sharing a lot of stuff to you. Maybe Siddharth, you might need to make Harshal again the host. You might need to give back the host to him. Yeah. So team, just a quick, let's say, time check and also a quick revision as well as to where exactly we are right now. So we started with the introduction of Log4j. We understood its organizational impact. We understood that, okay, what exactly, or let's say where exactly Log4j lies inside your application. We understood that, okay, which all types of applications have been impacted due to this Log4j. Then we understood a step-by-step approach as to how exactly to identify this Log4j vulnerability inside the, let's say, inside your infrastructure with the, let's say, a POC. And now we are again going back to the presentation where we'll again start from that, okay, what exactly to look out for inside your organization so that you can go ahead and identify and then accordingly secure your organization. So Harshal, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaushik. One more thing, on top of the things that after exploitation and all the explanation of Siddharth that went well, Kaushik, everyone, we can just also go through the steps to mitigate the vulnerability if it arrives, or if you get impacted. Then organizations should check the asset inventory of the organization, and they all of the affected applications or which are using the framework of Log4j. So spot vulnerable applications which are using the Log4j that needs to be monitored. Second, the permanent mitigation that you can do on your applications and the frameworks, that to apply the version of Log4j, the 2.15.0, and it's a stable version given by the Apache systems. And if through the link also you can download it and you can apply it directly. Secondly, the temporary mitigation, that if you want to go for it, rather than going for the 2.15.0, then you can add this script on your this program, and the script over there regarding that log4j.format.msj.no_lookups equal to true. That script, the script should be applied over there. And also the mitigation path that you can put it directly through the Palo Alto Networks, what they have given it to you regarding the CVE 2021442228. Also, second thing that you can do one more thing regarding the vendor protection for the vendors that giving you the firewalls or the rest of the devices and the things. So you can, if the attacker is attacking that, then you can block it at upfront with this user agent script at the WAF. Or if that also gets compromised, then again, if you can immediately patch the Log4j for the implementation, or disable the lookups, and even secondly go for the remote code database, disable it, the remote code database also in your path for that. Regarding how we can help you, for as a CISA, we can help you to identify the vulnerability and to mitigate the vulnerability. That we from the War Labs R&D team, we have developed a methodology utilizing the exhaustive scans through the tools which are available like Burp Suite, Nessus, and the Acunetics, and the rest of the tools, that is QG also, we can, Qualys Guard also you can use it, and we will be giving you that facility. And also that a hybrid testing approach through network testing and the application scanners and the frameworks with the manual testing approach, we'll be giving you the facility for that. The conclusion for this webinar, that we can see that So we have to look out for the assets and the assets inventory in the organization. Secondly, for the services and the frameworks which are using the Apache and the Java versions specifically, you need to update the services and the frameworks with the real test available and the stable patches of the stable versions of the patches, and to finally to mitigate the Log4j 0-day vulnerability which has arrived in past 2-3 days only. So over to the questions. Kaushik, we can take up the questions if they are.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for that, Harshal, and the War Labs team, who is continuously working 24/7 so as to, let's say, help us customers as well. Many of the questions are in the chat box, but you have a specific Q&A section if you would know. And we'll start answering questions from the Q&A section, then we'll go back to the chat as well, based upon the time frame which we have. So just to reiterate, first of all, the entire recording will be shared across with you guys, so need not worry on that particular sense. The steps of mitigation, the, let's say, the vulnerable servers, the payload, everything, let's say, will be shared with you. So please do not worry about that. Okay, whatever we have recorded, whatever we have said, that is something which will not go to you. Okay, and many of the questions which you guys are, let's say, posting in the chat box actually has already been answered. So what exactly we'll, let's say, whenever, let's say, we feel that it has already been answered in the entire session, then we'll request you to go ahead and have a look at the recording, have a look at the presentation as well, which we'll be sharing after the session. And then accordingly, let's say, we'll see if we need to emphasize on that particular pointer more. So we'll start from, let's say, the Q&A which we have over here. The first question is that if we use Apache without installing Log4j module, will it impact with this vulnerability? Do we need to implement any mitigating action? So I will answer it, first of all, based upon the best of my knowledge, and then accordingly, I'll transfer it to, let's say, Harshal and Siddharth, who are, let's say, War Labs for us over here. So if you do not have a Log4j as a, let's say, as a Java-based logging framework, then you need not worry, because this is something which has impacted Log4j 2.x, let's say, the framework as of now. So you need not worry about that. But again, I'll see if, let's say, it can be done for via the War Labs team as well. So Harshal, Siddharth.
Yes, Kaushik.
Okay. Fantastic. So then the next question is that any open source tool or scripts available to scan the repositories from Bitbucket or GitHub, if there's any log. We'll share with you the, let's say, the steps as well as a part, and that was something which we even, let's say, gave as a part of the entire thing. Over here, just have a look at the video recording, have a look at the presentation, and then even then, if it's not done, then of course we are there to help you at any given point in time. How the WAF rule can also help to stop this exploit and how that can be defined. So basically, your WAF should have the signature around this particular vulnerability of the Log4j, the deserialization, the RC vulnerability which we have. As of now, let's say, as of date, majority of the WAF vendors have already rolled out it. Many of the threat detection engines as well are providing this, you can say, the mitigation or the detection and the prevention as well from this vulnerability as a default action on their devices, because they do understand that, let's say, organizations are getting impacted directly from this, which will impact, let's say, the entire infrastructure. So they have already started doing that. You just have to search for the CVEID, and accordingly, you'll be able to understand that, let's say, do you have a signature around it or not? 99% it should be there. All right, War Labs team, do you want to add anything on top of this?
Actually, Kaushik, you answered it very correctly. So we have to the WAF rule, regarding the WAF rule and all, everything is explained. So So you took it very correctly.
Okay, sure. Thanks a lot. All right. There's a possibility application are still using the old library like 1.2.7. What are the risks they are carrying? So let's say let's say when we're talking about log4j 1.x, then they had their own vulnerabilities with their own CVIDs. Then let's say it would have impacted over there. Right now, we are, let's say, more focused towards log4j 2.x, and this entire session is framed around the, let's say, the same over there. Is log4j version 2.0, 2.14 only vulnerable or below 2.0? So again, we have already covered this as a part of the, let's say, the session that, okay, which all, let's say, the versions are vulnerable. You can have a look at it. So it's basically log4j 2.x means, when I say 2.x means .0 till 2.15. So basically, if you are anywhere before 2.15 or something like that, then you are vulnerable. And then accordingly, you have to, let's say, rectify the same over here. All right. Is version less than 2.0 also vulnerable? They will have their own vulnerability, as I told you guys. Recording presentation, yes, we'll share it. If I'm not using LDAP, should I bother? So I'll request help from my WarLabs team. However, as per my understanding, or let's say as per my own research on this topic, I believe the JNDI framework at the back end uses the deserialization based upon the LDAP, and then accordingly it starts to, or say, tries to, let's say, churn out the things. But again, I'll leave it to the experts as well over here. Harshal?
Yes, Kaushik. Actually, regarding the LDAP framework and all, that will also be vulnerable because that support that gets integrated with the JNDI, this JNDI also, and this the vulnerability that we are just log4j vulnerability also. So the combination will be affecting the servers and all.
Sure.
So in order to highlight actually the JNDI plugin, wherever the JNDI plugin is used, that particular service or the application needs to be checked if it is vulnerable to log4j or not. Not just JNDI, where the Java remote method invocation was also happening. We need to check with log4j vulnerability is present or not. Because using LDAP and RMI, we are actually, this vulnerability is leveraging the fetching of data using RMI and LDAP using JNDI call.
Okay, fantastic. So JNDI is the keyword over here, along with any of the, if let's say we are remotely executing anything on a Java application. So even those things have to be checked. Am I right, Siddharth?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks a lot for that, Siddharth. Okay, while updating, will there be a dependency problem? It entirely depends upon your infrastructure. We'll say that test it before you deploy it to the production. And that's where your threat detection tools, your WAFs and all come into picture, that they'll be able to protect you till the time, let's say it's not getting impacted, or let's say till the time you're not patching the systems, and then, but patching the system is the need of the hour. Please do not refrain from it. How to handle AWS Elastic IP? Is this vulnerability handled by AWS team or client side? So primarily, if you're using AWS services like AWS WAF, or let's say AWS threat detection and things like that, then they have started pushing out signatures. They have started pushing out, let's say, detection engines around the same. However, AWS team would be better to, let's say, comment on it. But as per our understanding, as per our visibility, they have already, let's say, rolled out the detection and prevention engines around the same. All right, how are we getting the email? Is that the application sending the data to Canary and then we are getting the email? Okay, this particular question I would need my, let's say, my lab hunter, Siddharth, to answer. Siddharth.
So the application is not sending data. Application, already the attacker has a request. So attacker just pings that particular server and see whether it is communicating to the attacker's LDAP server or not. That is what is happening here.
Okay. I know it's too much to ask right now, but without showing the screen, if you can just help us with the, let's say, the step 1, step 2, step 3 over here, Siddharth. And even if you say that, okay, that's something which you can document, share it again, let's say later, that is also fine. But we are just trying to understand if you can repeat it, the step-by-step approach. I'm really sorry to pull you in like this.
Yeah. So the exploitation part, an attacker must submit a JNTI lookup that points to their server. So attacker is within that actual application, the test, that vulnerable application. Now what he does is he will submit a JNTI lookup request to his own server, attacker server. And that's how he craft a payload under dollar this JNTI LDAP, then the domain name comes there. And once a LDAP request is sent to the attacker can now reply with the JNTI reference. That will point out to the server which was hosted earlier, that vulnerable server. That's how we are actually getting the email trigger on the same, stating that this is vulnerable to Log4j.
Sure. Thanks a lot for that, Siddharth. And really sorry to pull you up like this to explain the steps. But really, thanks a lot for that.
No worries.
All right. So then we have, okay, which all versions are impacted, already told. Anyway, detect Windows event ID. That is something which is there in the mitigation if you'll have a look at it. How worried should we be about our endpoints such as laptops, Windows and Mac? There could be applications in them that are running on Java. So as of now, what exactly we have understood is that majority of let's say them, if let's say you have patched it based upon the Apache, first of all, it's on the Apache server, or let's say it's on the server console. That's what my initial understanding, but again, I will leave it to the War Labs team right now to explain better. But right now, the focus is more towards the server rather than the clients at any given point in time. And absolutely, they will be, let's say, having, basically, yes, they'll be having, let's say, this particular library as well. However, at the client side, majority of the times, we don't want logging to be enabled. And this entire plugin is all about the logging capabilities of the application. But I'll leave it to, let's say, the War Labs team as well to comment on it and expand on it. War Labs team.
Yes, Kaushik.
Yeah, so basically the question is that how worried should we be about our endpoints, the laptops? There could be applications in them that are running on Java.
So actually the Java or the Oracle will also be coming up with the latest patches for the Java, because they come up with the, every time they come up with security patches and the updates also for the Java. So you need to get the Java versions updated as and when they are available, and the stable version they pull it directly. Even the Windows and the Mac operating systems also get the pop-ups for that and get it installed immediately, because the security patches are very much important for getting updated, because that will be covering up the vulnerabilities which may impact the operating systems and all. So you need to get that updated immediately whenever the pop-up comes.
Sure, thanks a lot for that over there. So yes, it's impacting, and yes, let's say as soon as the pop comes, then accordingly we have to make sure that okay, it's done. Versions we have already covered. Will this have an impact on the penetration testing on assets we own, which is in progress? Yes, not from a compliance, but absolutely from a testing perspective. You should, let's say, be testing for specifically this particular vulnerability, and that's where, let's say, our methodology, our approach also came in. Where what we are trying to do is that we are trying to first of all scan the public IP, or scan the particular IP or the interface. We are a network-based scanner, which goes to the application layer as well, absolutely. And then based upon that particular result, we again revalidate it via manual operations from the Burp Suite. So we are using a combination of automated plus manual. So as to make sure that let's say the vulnerability has been closed, and then again we revalidate, because many of the customers came back to us and said that although we have patched it, but we just want to be doubly sure that yes, we have closed each and every vulnerability, or let's say whatever was there. So accordingly, we are following this particular path, and we are using directly those plugins which are let's say which are specific to Log4j. So all of these scanners have that particular let's say plugins as well right now. So you can just use that particular plugin to scan, and then accordingly you'll be able to identify. But we have identified a couple of times false positives as well. That is, we were using a few scanners on the vulnerable server, which we just shown to you, and it was not able to detect the vulnerability, although we knew, because we have experts, so we knew that okay, the vulnerability is present. So we have tested different scanners, and then accordingly let's say we have come out with, so that's a part of the CSAS methodology for the let's say the entire scanning thing over here. So can anyone share the hash of this vulnerability? It's present on the CVID. So as soon as you go to the CVID, you will be able to do that. When the patch for VMware ESXi to be released, and how can we mitigate? So that is entirely depend upon VMware. We might not be able to comment on it, that how soon will they be coming up with, let's say, these things as well. Any specific port this vulnerability works on, so we could block the port from the network level firewalls over here. So Warlabs team. Harshal, Siddharth, you there?
Yes, Kaushik. Actually, the port, specific port that we have got at, but that is somewhat double. Actually, we'll put it in the slides in coming whenever we are sharing the slides, and also that we'll explain it and we'll put the details over there.
Sure.
That will be
absolutely we can do that. That's not an issue at all. And basically this so you can check on your let's say even on your network traffic logs, so as to understand that what is the port number for the same, and then accordingly you will be able to let's say, because many a times even these Log4j also works on let's say the API calls as well. And if you'll see the older vulnerabilities of CV 2017, that 5645 and things like that, they were actually exploited on the TCP UDP and the socket layer primarily. So yeah, that's how thing. But
so sorry to interrupt, Kaushik, in between, but there is no specific port number here. Any JNTI plugin, wherever it is in use, it's possible. That's what I referred from a SANS reference video.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks a lot for that, Siddharth. So as I told you, API calls are being used over here with TCP UDP port many a times, because it's a deserialization vulnerability majority of the times, which are being exploited. So it's not port dependent. The port keeps changing depending upon what exactly, or say how exactly we have configured inside our infrastructure. And we are already up with the time. So the remaining questions, what we'll do is that we have already noted down each and every question. We'll be rolling out a technical FAQ with all the answers from the entire thing. And then accordingly, it will be shared across to all the participants over here who have joined in. Thanks a lot, team, for joining this particular session. It was really indeed a pleasure for us to even host this entire session. Please make sure that you patch if any of, let's say, these applications or these, let's say, the open source Java-based logging frameworks are available. Please make sure to patch it, and please feel free to call us or call any of us, so that accordingly we can help you in the mitigation or the revalidation as well for same. So thanks a lot for joining us, and be safe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.